I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Eric Tang. He is co-founder at Livepeer. Eric, it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, pleasure. So now tell me about your company. What's your mission?
Yeah, so Livepeer is building the world's open video infrastructure. What that means is anyone can use Livepeer and build live or on-demand video streaming services, for their own, right? So things like YouTube or TikTok or Twitch, right? They can build their own version. So why is that? Well, in today's landscape, right, there's a lot of competition that's going into video, and the cost of video streaming is tremendously expensive. So Livepeer provides a service that allows people to cut 50 to 80% of their video streaming infrastructure cost just by switching over. At the same time, if someone is building a new streaming service, our product, because of its simplicity, can shorten their time to market tremendously. What used to take months now only take days.
Okay.
Now we're able to do that because we've created this open marketplace, essentially for the Livepeer network. Anybody can come and become a partial operator in that network, right? So it's almost like a Airbnb for computers in that way, right? And we've used the blockchain technology to create the security and the economic incentive for people to come and join this network. And together, this community of operators get to create this global infrastructure and share capital expenditure between all of them. And that makes the creation of this so much more affordable than if you were one single company and have to build this whole footprint, right? So, in today's world, right, like video streaming is 80% of all the internet's traffic, and it's rapidly growing, right? So our mission is to create this open and shared infrastructure for video so that it almost becomes a common good for anybody with access to internet, right? And anybody is able to participate both from a usage perspective and from an ownership perspective. And that's really important because the operators on the network are the owners of the network, as opposed to today's world where most of the video infrastructure is actually owned by a handful of companies, the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons and the ByteDances, right? And it's no surprise that they also operate the most popular video applications, right? So if you're creating a competitor to them, now you have to build your application on your competitors' infrastructure, paying them while competing with them. That just makes no sense, right? So we think by lowering the barrier to entry from the infrastructure perspective, we'll see just a lot more innovation that comes out on the application level. And at the end of the day, that's better for the consumer from an optionality perspective. It's better for the creators for them to have more revenue streams, that's what we're working towards.
So you talk about the competition and basically how you're different from the competition. So tell me, what inspired you to start this company?
Yeah, funny story. We worked on a video streaming application prior to this, and we were one of the top applications in the Apple App Store back in 2015, and through that process, it really gave us appreciation just how difficult and how expensive it is to build a really good consumer experience when it comes to streaming video, right? So we got lucky that in about 2016 we really started to dabble in the blockchain space. That's when Ethereum first launched, and we really saw this just new vision that probably a lot of people didn't see until much later when they were exposed to that, right? So at the very beginning, we just thought, okay, taking our prior experience, looking at blockchain technology, we think we can build like this really, really interesting thing that really have a big impact for society, right? So now the Livepeer network is 7 years old, and there's hundreds of node operators in the network. As an example, there's a node called Solar Farm, and it's operated by a retired couple who live in LA, and they have a solar energy facility near LA. So they use the energy that's generated from that facility to power their portion of the network that services in the U.S. West Coast region, right? Another good example, there's a node called NYSE Philanthropy, and it's actually operated by an ex-Wall Street trader. And he decided to leave his day job and get into philanthropy. And he uses the revenue generated by his node to donate to charitable organizations like the Met. right? So as you see, like these are, individuals that are really competent people. Like they're not only taking our open source software to run their operation, they also build their own software to monitor and improve their performance over time. And they're like kind of in competition with each other, right? So they will be competing on the price and the quality of service in this marketplace. And at the same time, they're also owners in the network, right? So you feel a sense of ownership. So all those things combined gets to create this really interesting technology that's like tapped into like almost like the best part of human nature, and just make things work really well, right? So, and so that's really kind of a cool vision that we're working towards.
All right, so now what's next? What are you focused on?
Yeah. So about a year ago, we've been working on this infrastructure to help people lower their costs, and it's all going well. And about a year ago, we started to realize there's a new opportunity for us. So we started to do some research really around the area of creating content ownership and provenance information and have that living on the blockchain. And that's a unique position, right? Because blockchain is this place that no one owns, and it's kind of a neutral place, right? And especially in today's landscape, where I think we're like very close to a time where the human eye will no longer be able to tell the difference between an AI generated video versus like a real world footage, right? That's going to bring a whole new set of reckoning to our work. We just are not ready yet, right? So we're a part of the content authenticity initiative, so together with our partners and companies like Adobe and the BBC and the Canon, like the camera manufacturer, we're working together to create tools so that when people are watching videos, they can also get the provenance information, which means who shot the video, where it came from, who published it, right? So we get to create the tools to fight misinformation online, and at the same time, also empower the independent creators to give them more optionality, protect their content, and find more revenue streams.
Okay. All right, well, Eric, wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk.
Thank you for having me.